here. Okay, I think we're ready. Make sure everything's on. What's up, everybody? My name is Richard Terrell, and you are watching DO Live, a daily stream show in which we talk about game design. Conversations start in our Discord, and we follow them up here. But today, I'm actually going to talk about my own game. It's something I started about a year and a half ago, and worked on this game for a while in Game Maker on my own, and got to a pretty far state. It's currently in beta number 7, and it's an open beta, so if you want to play it and try it and give me some feedback, I'd be much appreciated. But the game is called enLIGHTen, and the whole sort of gimmick, the whole tagline for the game is reach enlightenment by playing a simple puzzle game, and by doing so, you will learn the art of learning. I'm really big on education, I'm really big on game design, I'm really big on communication, so this game kind of puts all those interests all in one place, and I designed an entire play experience that's supposed to help you sort of see things eye to eye and hopefully give you some new abilities to better understand how you learn and better ways to learn and kind of see everything in a really clear, interesting way. So that's the basic idea. You know, you can find us on all these things, our Discord links on our Twitter, and it's all that design oriented. So the stream idea obviously I'm doing here is I've been working on enLIGHTen. So I'm back. You guys know I'm back. I was actually thinking about doing this stream as one of my first streams, but now it's just right here, and I'll click that. Cool. So, spoiler warning, right? I'll show you what the game looks like now, but if you want to give me some really good raw feedback, right, without me telling you how to play or anything about it, then go ahead and stop the video now. There will be a link down in the description on the YouTube video that can tell you everything you need to know. Right now it's PC only, but we have a really cool instruction tutorial sheet that explains how to put this on a Mac. You download something called Wine or Wine Opener, Bottle Opener, or whatever, and then it figures out how to play the game running on a Mac, and it looks like everything works out well. So crazy, right? I can't get the stupid program to export from Game Maker without buying a license and owning a Mac computer, but I can just tell people to download this program and it works perfectly fine. So if you're interested, you have a PC or a Mac, the game is available. Spoiler warning, here we go. I'm going to just talk about different parts. So it's been a long time. I had to make all this menu and junk from scratch. I had to teach myself a lot about this stuff. Menus that nest into other menus and open up other menus. You know, all the UI, all the graphics, almost all the graphics are temporary. Everything about what you see here is a placeholder. But everything but the music. So let me see if you can hear the music. I'll go back. Hopefully you can hear that. And hopefully it's not too loud. I'm actually going to test it on the stream here. By first muting you and doing this. Pretty good volume, cool. Okay, we're coming back. Okay, so this is what the game looks like when you've unlocked a bunch of stuff. You really just start with this top left button, the lecture hall here. And the game is basically in 2 major parts. You have a huge puzzle, half of the game, which is more or less like your traditional indie style puzzle games. You got all these levels you can play, and you can go for perfect scores, and it tracks all your progress. That's cool. But the other half of the game, obviously trying to teach you the art of learning, there's a lot to explain about how people learn and how you learn. So there's a whole lecture half of the game that I built this lecture hall for. So here are, each of these are an individual lecture, and it goes all the way down to 45. The first 15 are basically the core lectures for the core idea that I'm trying to get across. It explains the foundation of the learning, foundation of how I understand learning and how it works. You know, talking about working memory, talking about chunking, talking about how your long-term memory works, talking about how important those things are for building bigger ideas. It just stair steps everything from really simple concepts, hopefully simple, all the way down. After you get past 15, it's just sort of a 15 or so lectures of different learning phenomena that you might observe in your life, like the whole tip of the tongue phenomena, where you're like, oh, I know it, like I can't think of the name, but I know it, and I just can't think of it right now. There's several other things like that that everybody experiences, and explaining it in context of this learning system that you just learned is the purpose of lectures like 16 through 30, and then the rest are just after you beat the game, so you know, I'm not showing you those. All this content here is we'll eventually have text and stuff, but right now it's mostly delivered via voice acting. You know, my reading, like you can hear me talk, but nobody really wants to hear me talk that much. And as I said before, curiosity is what really drives us to. It's what really drives us to do things in life. Each of these slides are about 10-15 seconds. And so it's talking about perception, and thoughts and memories and methods and practices, and some of these slides are interactive, and then you unlock different things by doing these lectures. So every time, each lecture has a theme, it has an idea that we're getting across about learning, and every time you complete one, you unlock something that's pretty much coincides with that theme. So if you're going to learn about the limitations of your short-term memory and your working memory and how to get around that, then I'm going to give you a tool that sort of helps you play around with that, like how much do you remember. The tool helps you sort of reflect back on the things you've done, and you're supposed to sort of get a really good idea of how each of these concepts work by playing it with the game. So without further ado, I'll show you what the game looks like. You know, it's just a very simple 5x5 grid. This is the whole lights out style game that you may be familiar with from the 90s, but you know, you can click and the lights come on, and every time you click, this little cross pattern like this appears, and you see how the cursor has like an outline that also does the cross pattern. So like every time you click, it toggles the lights underneath that cross pattern on or off. Really simple rules. There's only 4 rules to the game, and everything that you see here is the entire game, but you'd be surprised at how hard it gets, and you'd be surprised at how easily you can be stuck, and you'd be surprised at how inventive and clever people are when coming up with their own methods and heuristics and stuff. So that's kind of half the purpose of the whole game. Start with something really basic, something that you might even underestimate as a player, and then kind of walk the entire spectrum of experiences to help give you a real grounding for like how learning works and what you can do from there. Like, one of the basic cool things I did with this game was you play the puzzle mode, and at first it's just this center area that you have unlocked, and all these puzzles are just one click it takes to solve them. I'll do an example here. You know, T, if I click over here, will make a T, but if I click here, it'll get rid of it. So you solve puzzles like that, and you got 3 different ways to solve it. You go back to level select. Red means I've solved it blind, right? Without any lights on the screen, I've memorized it. So don't worry about the fact that everything looks red. One of the cool parts about this game is that every puzzle has a name. This one's T, and this one's corner because it looks like something in the corner. And then you can rename these things yourself if you don't like my names, right? Like this is dart because it looks like a tiny dart, and you can see it right there. But every time you solve a puzzle, you learn a new name, and every time you learn a new name, it's just helping you understand or helping you recognize patterns. And recognizing patterns is one of the fundamental skills that you need to do in order to do more and more complex analysis and higher learning techniques. So the game encourages you to do that by always displaying the name up here at the top. So like whenever you run into another shape, it just changes. This is slash. This is bow tie, this is butterfly, this is cross. Like you soon learn to communicate and learn these things by their names, and when you're lost and all of a sudden you like don't know what's going on, and then like a name pops up. Let's see if I can get it. Cross, T, stamping pad, you know, little bamboo, stuff like that. Then it helps you orient yourself on all the possibilities that you've already uncovered, and you know, helps you hopefully navigate to a solution. There's this guy in the corner, his name's Richard. He has a Twitter, you might want to check it out yourself. I might want to show you what it is. Twitter.com/Richard. And I'll just hey, there he is. He's got his own Twitter, so if you want to talk about enLIGHTen or talk to Richard at any time, you know, this is the perfect place to reach him. And all he does is talk about enLIGHTen, so you know what you're getting yourself into. So I jam-packed this game with all these different features, these different tools that I thought would be helpful for learning, because you know, when I first encountered this game, it didn't necessarily have a puzzle mode, and it didn't have a guy talking to you in the corner giving you advice. It didn't really have much, right? It was just essentially this basic explorer mode and maybe a few puzzles that you can do inside of it. So that's kind of what the puzzle game is like in its raw form, its bare form. And I wanted to design all these tools to help you, you know, reach beyond it, right? Because a lot of people play puzzle games, a lot of people do activities in life all the time, and they give it an initial effort, but because one reason or another, they slow down, they stop, they get stuck, and they lose interest, and they never want to come back again. So I want to keep more of your attention and more of your effort on the game by giving you little ways to sort of improve your learning overall. And all these are optional to use for the most part. But for a simple example, Click Keeper. Everywhere you click, it keeps track of where you click. So even if you do a lot of stuff like this, you can see exactly where you clicked, and by clicking the same places, you can undo those clicks, right, and get back to where you were before. And this is, we started with a dart, so that's exactly where that is. Tools like that are really helpful for you to orient yourself and keep track of what you've done. You can look back in your history right here and be like, ah, yes, that's what I did. But the other cool thing I gave you is just the ability to scroll back on all your turns. So you can go from start to finish and look like, huh, I didn't even know I made that shape. Or like, oh, look at this. That's almost like, this shape right here is almost like what we call stairs, but it's upside down. So if I try to, let's see, if I try to get rid of stairs, it looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3. Stairs, upside down. So like, obviously I'm a master at this game, so don't worry about how hard or easy that looked. But interesting, you can use the scroll wheel to go forward and back in time and see your progress. That's just a really handy feature. You can even hover above it and see your turns. You'd be like, I want to go to turn 19, I want to go to turn 6, and it displays it properly. So that's just one example of a tool that I thought would be really convenient for people to use to help themselves learn. The Click Keeper, the scroll wheel, all these other tools have different things that I won't necessarily go over specifically. There's even this rotate button. You can kind of change the orientation of what the shape looks like just to keep yourself fresh. And that is mainly how the puzzle mode works. Each ring that goes out like this gets more and more difficult, right? Layer 3 is 3-click puzzles, layer 4 puzzles that take 4 clicks. And something that I built for you, for your convenience, is whenever you go from a higher click puzzle to a lower one in an efficient number of moves, in a very efficient way, it draws a line from those two puzzles. So in your mind, you may know that rocket ship here goes into goggles, which goes into hive, which goes into cross. I'll show you. Rocket ship to goggles to hive into cross, just like that, and you can solve it. But if you forget, it's always going to be here for you, right? Which is super convenient. And even if there's multiple branches, like this one, it keeps track of all your branches, and it keeps track of how many times you've seen this puzzle when you're playing, and it keeps track of how many notes you've made about this puzzle, which is something I didn't explain yet, but that's fine. And you're supposed to challenge yourself to go as far out as possible, increasing the complexity and increasing the connections you give and bring to the table. You can zoom out too, if you want to kind of look at everything. Some of the most complex puzzles in the game, that one looks complex, but it really is a lot more simple. This is one of the most complex one I've come across here. That's just crazy sauce. This 13-click puzzle out here named, what did I name it, Checkers? Oops. I keep getting mixed up on how I navigate because it's a lot different from using Illustrator or Unreal. So yeah, this level select in itself is a representative diagram of the design space of the puzzle game, and as you explore the level select, it reinforces a lot of the things that you've learned, and it's just one more cool thing for you to do to sort of help push you along and get some real good positive feedback going. So when you do a little bit in the game, it's reflected back at you, which makes you want to do a little bit more, and it should create a positive cycle of learning and all that. So that's just an example of a super complex one. It's just super fun. One of the other sort of revolutionary, I should say, features, the most unconventional, not video gaming features I added, is the ability to take notes. And at any time when you're playing, you can hit this button and make a note. And you can type stuff like, you can type stuff. But right there, this is a checkerboard. And you can tag your notes, whether you're making tips for yourself, just recognizing interesting shapes that you find, or leaving yourself questions, and at any time you can just save it. Oh. This is a checkerboard? Question mark? And it tucks it away. You can see all your notes in your My Thoughts. It collects all your thoughts from over time. And here's the note we just made. You can type stuff. This is the checkerboard. You know, you can click on it and edit it. Whatever is happening on the game board gets captured in the snapshot, and you can always just go and play this directly from any of your notes and kind of play around with that. Slash. Haha, there's a slash inside of the checkerboard, right? So then I can say there is a hashtag slash, and it actually keeps track of all the puzzle names and allows you to use hashtags to effectively identify them inside the hashtag checkerboard, checkers. And we'll just say that's a tip, and we'll save it. So now whenever you're playing the game, right? Let's say you're playing the game and you are here, and you're just like playing and slash pops up. Another cool feature, instead of looking at your notes inside of My Thoughts, you can look at relevant notes. And there is a slash inside of checkers. So it's arranged sort of with the newest at the top. And this is a feature I call relevant notes, and it only puts up the notes that are relevant to what's exactly on the screen. So there's a slash on the screen, you're going to get all these slash notes. This is another one. Yeah, another magic shape. So I tagged this with the magic shape hashtag for my own purposes, and it pops up there. But if I do this, no new notes are popping up. But if I do this, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 checkers. So because I knew there's a slash inside of the checkers, which you can kind of see here diagonally here or here, I was able to go backwards. But now that we've identified checkers, because this is also a shape on the map, it pulls up all the relevant checkers notes, which is click all the blank squares. This is a note made by my brother, so it has a blue color. My current color right now is green, so all the notes in green are mine. Here's a red one made by somebody else. No, wait, here's a green one. This is a red one made by somebody else. This is a solution to checkers, apparently. Interesting. Let me try that. Here's another tip. I didn't know you can make a zipper as part of the solution. So when you're going from checkers, it can go into zipper. I didn't know that. Solution is a combination of solving for the baby food and the sniper. Those are two different shapes. Obviously, you can see the hashtags. Solution match set. Somebody else is an invert. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. And a magic shape. Interesting. So these are all the relevant notes for what's happening right here, and as soon as I change it, a lot of these will disappear. So I'm going to try to solve it using this click pattern, and to keep track of which ones I'm clicking, I'm going to use the click keeper and hopefully not get confused. So we already have some clicks in there, but I'm going to go ahead and do this one, 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 and then click the top and bottom. Exactly. So the notes are there for you. You use them for yourself. They're there so you don't ever forget something. And the very act of taking something that you feel or think in your head and externalizing it, it's just a huge benefit for your learning. A lot of people will extremely underestimate the power of taking notes with this game, or doing it in life in general. So, you know, this game is supposed to help you realize how effective and important and fun it is. But if you don't do it, it's not that big of a deal. And it gives you a little replay of what you've done. And after you've solved it, you're like, oh, I didn't know what I did. I wanna actually save some of that. This always gives you a chance to review your work, which is fun, you know. And it also gives you some stats, like how long it took you per click at different stages. And when you saw these little yellow dots here, when you've seen a shape more than once, they're deja vu dots. So I knew that I've seen checkers multiple times at that point, I think, or something like that. And then it gives you suggestions on things, the ways of analyzing your data, but mostly you can just scroll through and take a look. The thing I want to take a note of is the solution. So I got this here, I click it, it shows me this weird pattern, and I say this is a weird pattern for the solution. Definitely not optimal, but fun. And I can save it. And now I can go back to level select because, you know, it let me out. And now that note will always be here, so when I click on this again, this is a weird pattern for the solution, not optimal, but fun, and I'll never forget that. So notes are a big deal. Remembering things is a big deal, but the whole purpose of this game is to help you realize how intricate and complicated and fun and interesting learning is. So I built this record page to help you keep track of your progress. The whole point of this game is to reach enlightenment, and you know, you can get up to 100%. Each one of these corners fills up like a graph, but I've beaten the game, so it's all filled. Each of these 5 points are a different aspect of how I define enlightenment, and it's like thinking differently, seeing differently, like using your other senses, like your hearing differently, using your voice, which is like taking notes, and using your language differently. And the more you do these new ways of, you know, learning, the more the game tracks your points, and you build up points there. The game also tracks your mastery. Those are the two halves of the coin. Enlightenment is about learning and self-reflection and understanding how you learn, but mastery is how well can you play this game, period, flat out. So there's 5 components to mastery as well. Memorization, how much you've actually memorized, and it tells you what it's scoring in order to, you know, build up these points so you're never at a loss of what to do. Heuristical learning, how well can you use tips and tricks that you've collected over time to help you solve puzzles. Logarithmic learning, which is how complex your methods are and how effective they are at basically deriving the solution, like from a series of simple steps. Cardinality is something that I kind of coined, and it refers to directional understanding, which is a measure of how well one has learned a subject. Forward and backwards, up and down, and in and out. That's why I call it cardinality. It's got like a 3-dimensional sort of graph or concept to it. Each of those are very specific. I explained it in the lectures, but this measures that. And the finally experience, measure of your experience with multiple possibilities and situations when playing this game. Just general, like getting more exposure to the game and having that influence how you learn. So all these things are measured, and the whole point of the game is to try however you want to play it. You just do whatever you feel like, but the game is going to show you your stats and reflect back on you exactly how well you're doing, right? So puzzles solved, I've solved 158 puzzles in the game. I perfected 136, and I blinded, you know, without seeing the board. I'll show you what blind looks like. This is what blind looks like. Let me show you. Like this, and I click the blind eye, and I'm going to attempt to blind all these puzzles right here. And then it starts off like this, but then after the first click, it goes away, and you just have to know what you're doing. So it really tests your memorization. You can't really fudge it, and there's really no way to get around it. So that's what we call blinding. And the records page keeps track of how many you've done in that style. So you can see my graph here. Obviously I beat puzzles before I perfect them, and I probably will have more beaten than perfected, and so on and so forth. And blind, I had to catch up at about the 6th hour. I started doing blind. And no, I've done this all before. This is just one of my latest files, but it kind of shows you my progress. Here is the daily challenges. So the daily challenges are the primary way that I measure your mastery, and there are 5 mini games that I created to really test your ability to play this game in a whole bunch of different ways, right? This one is just random clicks. I'll show you. It just clicks randomly on the board, and you're challenged in 3 minutes to solve 10 stages. And you get minor penalties for time being too slow or clicking anything redundantly, and kind of this is interesting. Yeah, I didn't need to click those. I got some redundancies there. Interesting. Let's see. So this is obviously the sort of masterful level work here, where I'm like so good at the game that none of this is really a problem. And it's just, I'm just like thinking of interesting things while I play and trying different things, and it's just working out for whatever reason. This is a level I think all players can get to and should get to, and challenging yourself, oops, not have special ways to get out of certain situations that I see all the time, and I can easily do that. So you do a daily challenge, it scores you, it shows you your progress in the background and how many you've completed successfully, and you're supposed to do, you know, so many out of 10, and I got 3 redundant clicks out of that whole thing, so it's a 97, right? It's 10 points per each puzzle with these penalties that it subtracts. It kind of gives you the math down here. And that's it. And here's my progress. Like, the little spikes are when I took longer on turns, so I can even just look at, like, what made me take longer on this turn right here. It's because this is unfamiliar to me, so I paused for a moment. I said, interesting. So now, like, even though I did really well, just like I showed you before, you can always go back and take notes, and I'll take a note and be like, why did this make me pause? Pause. Okay, make me hesitate. How about that? Question mark. This note is saved forever, and I can always go back and analyze that if I wanted to. What is the other one? This spike here? This made me pause. I'll take another note. This one made me hesitate too. Why? Question mark. Save it. And yeah, like everything you do, this game encourages you to be a little bit more mindful about it. It gives you really clear feedback and a way to keep yourself in the game. So there's 5. Oh no! That's not supposed to happen! This is probably gonna break the game. What is this? F1, please? Okay, cool. So basically I 100% reached enlightenment, which you can see here. It's 99.7. Okay, whatever. That happens when you reach 100%, whatever. Daily 2 is about converting the grid into a familiar pattern. So they give you something that's not familiar and be like, see the shape over here? It's called drawer handle, or it's called push-up bar. Here's the name. You need to extract this shape out of this in 2 clicks. Do it. So it challenges you to see patterns when they're slightly scrambled, and obviously the solution to that one's right there. And the push-up bar is obviously, there we go. This is Pokeball. Is right there, and I can just instantly see the target, see where it needs to go, see the possibilities, and do everything necessary to get it to happen. You can challenge yourself to do the same. Solve puzzles that are least seen. So this is always going to be like, no matter how many puzzles you've played in this game, this one's going to find the ones you've seen the least and give them to you. So apparently I've seen this one the least, which is kind of funny because I always go into normalize, and from normalize I go into this and solve it. So it's always just going to show me these least seen puzzles. This one's called the button. I'm not sure why the name didn't pop up, but that's alright. This one's called YouTube or YouTube, what's it called? YouTube rating, I think. Which is actually just a secret Facebook app, which turns into a worm tea, like so on and so forth. I know just about everything. Create patterns from scratch. So this one's cool. They give you a blank board and they're like, create this bat attack. You're like, huh, how do I do that? And it sees if your heuristics can kind of work in reverse. Like, remember this one? We went over this earlier in the video. This one is Rocket Ship. And if you recall, Rocket Ship is a, what is it, a cross that turns into a hive, that turns into a goggles, that turns into Rocket Ship. Yay! So, like, definitely, that's the whole forward and backwards aspect of cardinal learning. Like, you could certainly, a lot of people will get good at solving it forwards. But solving it backwards is a whole different thing, and it stresses your mind in a completely different way, and we test it and track it and do cool stuff with that knowledge. This one's convert one pattern to another without solving it, so I got to go to this from this, and there's no direct way to do that, so I'm just going to do that. There's no way to make that more efficient. This one, there is a way to make it more efficient, like that. And it challenges you to apply all your learned solutions and come up with some there we go. It challenges you in unique ways, and you'll find some people are good at some dailies and not good at others, but obviously the game tracks all your progress right here with the daily challenges, and you can see my scores. You know, obviously I mastered the game already, but they just shoot up to the top, and I just have fun playing around. Right here, this is when I played the entire daily challenges blind. So like obviously my scores are still pretty high, which is funny because not looking at the screen seems like it would make you worse at the game, but the whole point is once you've learned it, and trivial challenges and differences like not being able to see hardly matter. You know, it keeps track of the questions you answered and the conversations you've had and the notes you've written. I've written 321 separate notes and things like that, and it charts your progress over time. It keeps track of which tools you use, right? The tool I use the most is this Deep Purple, which is, what is that? Yeah, the Click Keeper tool, 64 times total. Other people would have different preferences for other tools. It keeps track of your time spent in all the different modes in the game, right? Fun stuff like that. Oops. And it keeps track of how many grids you've solved and other stats, and even your mastery and enlightenment level. Like you start the game at 0, and then how quickly do you grow up in both, and do you have to reach enlightenment before your mastery catches up, or can your mastery shoot up without even reaching enlightenment? Those are interesting questions that I kind of want to solve, improve, or look at, but I need a whole bunch of people to play these games so I can crunch the data. So this entire game's a research project, and this entire, I reached mastery, that's what I did, I didn't reach enlightenment. This entire game's a research project, and I spent 1.5 years on it, and it has tons of new progressive ideas, I think, for teaching and learning and being really honest and open about how complex the process is and how so many different people, institutions, whatever, are kind of not going about it the right way. So yeah, that's a quick look at enLIGHTen. The only other thing I'll say is an interesting motivator for you to answer honestly and put more energy into the system is with this what I call the friend system. And you know, you can put a friend's code in right here, and it'll download their data, and then as you play, let's say you're in the lecture hall and you're in lecture 4, and it has this question right here. What question do you have about enLIGHTen puzzles? Pick one that you are most curious to know. I picked this top one, that's why it's blue. What is the minimum number of clicks it takes to solve the hardest puzzles? And my friend here, whose name is Huitzilopactili, also picked this one. And as you continue to play, you'll see your answer versus their answer. He picked that one, I picked this one. He picked that one, I picked this one. We picked the same one on this one. And you know, eventually, hopefully you'll be able to put in multiple friends, but right now it's just one at a time. And your scores are automatically uploaded online, so you always get the fresh data and what they think. And it's just kind of neat to see, like, oh look, in this quiz we answered all of them the same. How do you memorize puzzles? You take a photograph with his mind. Do you memorize click solutions? Yes. How do you think a perfect memory would change your experience? I misspelled. I'd be able to remember every puzzle I'd solve and what I thought about, so you pick the same one. And when memorizing solution to puzzles, which method do you think is the most effective? Some combination. So it's cool. Comparing your journey to other people is a really effective way to see just how different every person is, how complex learning is, and how many new things you could try to sort of boost your own progress learning. And it has other social features like, you know, you can view your friend's notes. And these are all Huitzilo's notes. He has a lime green color, and he takes a lot of notes here, and he has his own way of talking. And if I see any note that he's made that I like what do I like? What do I think is interesting looking? This one's interesting. Virus 14 click solution. That's cool. So I'm going to click it, and I'm going to copy it over into my file. You know, there's not a lot of good feedback, so don't worry about that. And then when I go back, his note is right at the top of my thing, and you just click on stats, and it's always going to have his name there. He wrote this note when he was at 66% to enlightenment and 35% to mastery after 14 hours of play. And he made this note on 27/6/18, so last month, which is cool. Virus 14 click solution. So now when I go to Virus, oh, by the way, you can search for puzzles using the type up there, which is another good reason why to learn the name. And I go to relevant notes. Guess whose note is at the top? His note. It's a different color, but it looks green. 14 click solution. So all I need to know is make a box and then put 2 little dots on the side. Let's see if that works. It definitely worked. How interesting. And I can play around with that with the click keeper and scroll up and down and kind of see it in action. And kind of look at the shapes that it made in between. Adrian VHS. Okay, so another feature I didn't tell you about, you can add your own shapes in and change. You can obviously change the names of all the shapes whenever you want, but you can add shapes in. Apparently that made one called Adrian VHS, AGRA. There it is. I just put LOL because it's funny. So yeah, you make your own learning journey yours, and the whole point is, even though the game looks simple, mastery is actually incredibly difficult. You'd be super surprised in how easy I made it look and how hard it will be for you to overcome your own hurdles. The game tracks everything that you do so that you can see why you hit your hurdles and what they're made out of and possible ways to get around them. And that's the whole point. I know the game's a little rough, and it largely appeals to people who like puzzle games or can stand me talking to them for more than 2 minutes, which if you're watching the stream, you're obviously one of those kinds of people. So I definitely encourage you to play it. I definitely need a lot of feedback because there's a lot of features that I didn't talk about, a lot of things that need tuning, and just boy, I need to take the whole direction of this game. But you know, the hope is that the way I've defined learning and the way that the tools that I created and the structure that I created is actually better than college, better than public education, better than private tutors. Like, this should be a superior system, but I just need your help to fine-tune it. So this is probably my life's work today. It takes a lot of stuff I've learned about game design and learning through critical gaming, and a lot of stuff I just learned in general, and I put it all in one piece. So if you're looking for the one piece, or you have friends that you've met along the way, definitely give this a try. You can always talk to me about it. We have a dedicated channel in our Discord for feedback for this game. Definitely check that out. And the last thing I'll show you is what is it? And I'll shut this thing up. The last thing I'll explain is how to download it. Right? We have this. I have made this nifty page here. I made this nifty page that has all the instructions you need. Beta 7.6. You can all my contact information, the download link here. It says PC only, but thanks to Wario Fan, a friend and fellow Discord member, he created this little tutorial that you can do if you have a Mac. And you first download the game, then you download Wineskin Winery, and then it just walks you through with nice pictures and nice explanations on how to run this game on a Mac and join all the cool stuff that we're doing. So I super encourage you to give it a whirl. Let me know if you do. You know, on my Discord, at my Twitter at KirbyKid, or talk to Gritchard directly, twitter.com/Gritchard, and let me know, because feedback, I need it. Give me the feedback.